Am I the antagonist for not inviting my sister's in-laws to my birthday? My birthday is coming up, so I invited some people to my place to have lunch. It's not a big event. Literally just lunch with my girlfriend, her sister and mine, my mom and 4 or 5 friends. My sister asked me what time I wanted her there because she needed to know when to go pick up her in-laws. I was confused and asked her why she needed to pick them up, and she said that they were coming too, like it was obvious. She said her husband was coming, which is fine by me and expected of course, but I don't understand why his parents and sister have to come too. My sister was offended and said they invited me to things all the time. Christmas dinner was at their house, for example, and they hosted my sister's birthday too. I came to both events and my sister made sure to tell me how rude I was both times since I didn't bring anything or even help to wash the dishes or clean up. Now, maybe this differs between people, but in my opinion, if I invite someone over for dinner, I don't demand or expect them to clean up or wash dishes. In fact, I've had my sister's husband over more than once, and he never washed dishes or offered to, and I never thought him rude because of it. I also offered to bring something and was told very emphatically it wasn't needed, so I didn't. I hate that game of telling people not to do things but expect them to do it anyway, so I don't play along. Anyway, my sister says since they've invited me over for things before I should invite them for mine. I said that doesn't make sense. They're her in-laws, not mine. I went to Christmas dinner because I was explicitly invited, and I went to my sister's birthday because she's my sister. I didn't bring over my girlfriend's parents to her party either, and I don't know anyone who would. I told her so and she said I could have brought them if I wanted, and she would have welcomed them unlike me. I said it's not a case of welcoming. It's just that it's my birthday, and I'm only inviting people I'm actually close to, and her in-laws are not part of that group. I'm not going to invite people out of politeness. My sister got angry and said she's not coming, and that I need to learn basic manners. I said that's fine by me. My mom says I should just let her bring them so we won't be angry on my birthday, and so her in-laws won't be offended. I refuse. I don't understand why I have to invite them over when I have nothing to do with them. I don't know anyone who invites their siblings' in-laws to anything, or even has any sort of relationship with them. But maybe there are people who do, so that's why I'm asking. It's your birthday, your party. Space is limited. You don't have to cater to anyone but yourself. Your sister is a guest and doesn't get to decide the guest list. She has no idea what she's talking about. Happy birthday. Am I the antagonist for excluding a child from my son's birthday party? Yesterday was my son's 8th birthday party. We held at a huge multi-level soft play area and invited 15 children. The soft play is still open to the public during the party. You just get a party table and they have access to the soft play frame. My friend, Nora, turns up with her 2 invited children, another invited child, Luke, and that child's not invited younger sister, Mary. I go over to say hello and say I notice Mary is with them. Has Mary paid to come in separately? She said she just signed her in as a party guest and explained that Luke and Mary were playing over. She asked their mother whether she should take them to the party and the mother said yes. I explained that my son hadn't invited her. I've confirmed 15 guests for the party. That's how many they've arranged food for, etc. She said she'd go pay. In hindsight, I do think that's where I was the asshole. I should have just explained to the owners and asked if she could add an extra child on. However, I didn't, as I didn't have a party bag for Mary and a lot of the son's friends' siblings were there too, and their parents had paid for them to come in. I felt bad making an exception for this one child. However, I do think I've got my point across and this is the end of the story. Food is served, Mary grabs an extra chair and starts eating. I mentioned to Nora that I'm a bit concerned that the venue is going to think I'm taking liberties as there are 16 kids eating, but I've only paid for 15. She explains the situation to the owner, and I just leave Mary to eat. I figure there's plenty for everyone to eat. Nobody is going to go without, it's fine. I explained to Nora that when they serve pudding, dessert, here, they put plates out with 1 biscuit, cookie, each a marshmallow, a strawberry, etc. Basically, there is 1 item each. She says she'll get Mary a separate pudding. I say cool and think we're all done. Pudding is served, Mary sits down and starts eating. I once again pull Nora's attention away from the conversation she's engrossed in and ask if she has a pudding for Mary. She gives her a bag of sweets and continues chatting. Mary eats them and proceeds to eat multiple biscuits, leaving several children without. As Nora is going to leave, I grab party bags for her kids and Luke. Nora tells the kids that she'll just put all the bags in her bag and they'll share them out when they get home. I feel terrible. I have 4 kids, I've done many parties, and I always bring spare bags but they never get used. And it's just more stuff to transport home, so I didn't this time. After they left, a close friend can see I'm stressed, I briefly explain, and she tells me not to worry about it. At least I know Luke and Mary ate today. I realize there's likely some neglect going on there, and that's why they're always at Nora's house. I feel like the world's biggest asshole. Go home, have a cry, and send Nora a message apologizing for how I handled it. Am I the asshole for not just putting down an extra party guest and making such a fuss? You didn't exclude anyone but rather had uninvited guests try to cuckoo your children's birthday party. Nora is a bit of a nuisance and should have understood the invite list. She took advantage by expecting catering for an uninvited child, leaving invited kids out of some foods. Nora should be the one apologizing. Am I the antagonist for not wanting to make a second batch of desserts for my picky sister? My partner, 30 years old male, and I, 33 years old female, have become lactose intolerant and allergic to eggs over the last few years. And not in a oh no, I have a tummy ache way, but in a way that will have us confined to the bathroom in agony for 2-3 days. It's no joke. We've put a lot of effort into learning how to accommodate for ourselves and maintained a love for cooking and baking that's safe for us. Some of my family members have commented that they find our allergies confusing, and we've occasionally been caught at events where there's little we can eat because everything was cooked in butter and the only salad dressing was ranch. We've been getting better at either bringing our own dairy-free options or asking about meal plans beforehand when we're guests. My sister, 36 years old, is a picky eater, not in a mental illness way, just annoying and has been all her life. She's coming to visit next week and I've offered to host a family dinner. This is something my husband and I do frequently and really enjoy. We've even hosted dairy-free Thanksgiving and Christmas meals with little fuss, and none of my siblings or other relatives have food allergies. My sister has been talking up the fancy cheese charcuterie board she's going to bring for months now. She doesn't care that we can't partake, and even asked for fancy grocery store recommendations in our area to add local cheeses to the mix. I told her I didn't know any but kept my follow-up question. Why the heck would I know where to buy fancy cheese I can't eat? To myself. When she began asking about what we were planning to serve for the family dinner, I told her I hadn't decided yet and asked if she had any requests. I knew she'd been trying to eat more vegan meals, so I was expecting something like that. However, her main focus was on reminding me that she didn't like curries, coconut, seafood, and really doesn't like substitutions in baked goods. So for desserts, could we make 2 batches? One we can eat and one she prefers? She offered to buy the ingredients but didn't clarify if she would also be the one to make the second batch or if she expected me to. Maybe I'm being too sensitive, but I think it's ridiculous to ask the host of a dinner to make you something specific that you know they can't eat. If she wants to bring her own dessert, her own butter for the corn on the cob, her own fancy cheese, that's fine. But to ask me to make 2 batches of dessert just because she's picky feels absurd. When I looked up the etiquette for this sort of thing, all the articles I could find were addressing how hosts can accommodate guests with allergies, not how to host when you yourself have allergies and your guests are being demanding. So am I the jerk for not wanting to make a second batch of desserts that I can't eat for my picky sister? Not the antagonist. Demanding a second batch of food just for her is unreasonable. It's crazy to expect a host to make anything specific, especially just for a family dinner. Also, the fact that both of you turned intolerant and allergic is scientifically curious. Could there have been an environmental trigger for this? Am I the antagonist for leaving my son's wedding early? My son, 30 years old male, got married 2 weekends ago. My wife and I left the wedding just before the dancing started. This was not planned ahead of time, but my wife wanted to leave, and I chose to leave with her. In the aftermath, my daughter-in-law told me I should have stayed and celebrated with her and my son, and let my wife leave early. She told me I let my son down, and I shouldn't be surprised if I'm not included much in the future lives of grandchildren. So background and leading up to this, I was married before to my son's mother. Sadly, we lost her when my son was only 5. I remarried when he was 9, and my son and wife knew each other 2 years at the time of our wedding. My wife was also a single mom to a son and daughter who were 2 and 5 at the time. Our blending of the family was fine, but my son was always emotionally distant but polite. He did not reciprocate my wife's efforts to bond. He was polite. He wasn't rude. He behaved. But it was clear he was going out of politeness and not because he wanted to bond. He also did not show an interest in bonding with his step-siblings. My son was in therapy after his mother died. He was in therapy when I started dating again, and a therapist helped me navigate the experience with him. I don't know how much it helped realistically, but I did my best to make the experience as positive for him as I could, and we didn't force titles or anything. All we asked for was respect, and we hoped and did ask that all the kids give everyone a chance. Friends and family told us that in time he would come to appreciate my wife and love her for being a good stepmother, if not a good second mother. But that we had to give it time and always be kind and loving but not judgmental or pushy. When my son announced his engagement several months ago, my wife had hoped he might give her a short dance after hearing he would dance with his maternal grandmother. She asked and he told her no. My wife then asked if I would talk to my son and figure out if there was a reason he couldn't do one with both. I spoke to my son and he told me the reason he said no is because he did not care about my wife. He said he loved his grandmother and wanted to dance with her on his wedding day because he can't dance with his mom. But that my wife means nothing to him, and she is only attending the wedding because we are married, and he loves me. But he told me he has not and never will love her or want her around. I considered not putting it in those words to my wife, but she told me to be honest, and so I was. She was deeply hurt. My stepkids were not told the reason their mom was hurting, but figured it was to do with the wedding, and so they RSVP'd no when their invites came in. All of this was playing on my wife's mind during the wedding, and before the dances began she told me she wanted to leave, and she didn't want to stay where she wasn't wanted. I chose to leave with her. I could see she was upset. I said my goodbyes and we left. Am I the antagonist? You're the antagonist. Your wife's behavior was completely inappropriate and selfish. She should have accepted your son's answer gracefully, instead of trying to manipulate the situation. By leaving the wedding and making a scene, she showed her true colors and made it clear that she prioritizes her own needs over the feelings of others. Choosing her over your son in this moment was a mistake, and it's understandable why he may feel pushed away. Think about how her actions may impact your future relationship with your son and any potential grandchildren. I threw my pregnant girlfriend out because she refuses to pay rent or her share of the bills. Long story short, my girlfriend and I have been living together for around 10 months. When she first moved in, she insisted on paying rent, and I was reluctant to charge her if it didn't work out, but she forced it and paid a month. Then I found out she's struggling for money, unable to pay for things, is in a lot of debt and lives month to month. She agreed with me that she'd start when she clears the debt. Fast forward to Christmas, I find out she's been stealing my clothes to give to her family as gifts. Another post on here. She lied for 2 weeks, blaming me until I showed her footage of her taking the things from the camera in the living room to watch the dog when I'm out. I later then discover through letters and texts I've seen appear on her phone she's been doing nothing to pay any of it off, so I confront her. She tells me and shows me messages that her mother and sisters constantly guilt trip her into giving them money and have for years. They'll message her on payday asking for it, and she feels bad saying no, despite none of them ever paying it back. Her mum alone owes her over £6,000 sterling. She has taken a ton of loans out for her family and they leave her with the debt and don't pay it back. Luckily, her credit is now at the point where nobody will loan to her, but she still tries and does it for them. I also find out, I went through her finances. Yes, I shouldn't have, but something wasn't adding up and I was being lied to. That in the space of 20 minutes, she spent £300 sterling on gambling sites. All during this time, she isn't paying a penny towards rent, bills, anything. She'll occasionally buy food shopping or trips out to Starbucks. I tell her enough is enough and she needs to start paying her way. If she can give handouts to her family and gamble, she can pay for where she lives, and she's taken me for a ride when she's been saving and clearing debts. I make roughly 5 times what she does, but I've been fair in that the bills are split proportionally to income. She'll earn £1,400 and pays £600, includes rent and her share of the bills. I take on the rest, which is substantially more, but I believe it's not fair to take more. On the 1st of this month, she tells me she can't pay rent. She says she's paid out too much on our trips to Starbucks, food shopping, and I'll get it when I get it, but she doesn't understand why I need it this month when she's lived for free the past 9 months anyway. I've asked her to explain where her money has exactly gone, but she tells me I'm controlling and it's none of my business. In fairness, she will pay when we go food shopping, but rarely in comparison to me. I've kicked her out as of yesterday and told her she needs to find somewhere to live. She is, however, pregnant, and she's using that card as a way to guilt trip me and make out I've thrown out her and my child onto the streets. In my opinion, she is taking me for a ride and prioritizing her family that is using her over her own family she started. What's the solution here to getting her to see she's not treating me fairly? You should have ended things with her when you found out she was stealing from you. Now that she's pregnant, you'll need to talk to a lawyer for custody. It's irresponsible to bring a child into such an unstable relationship. She should seek therapy to escape her abusive family. Am I the antagonist for telling my parents that my brothers were awake in the middle of the night? This happened a few days ago, and one of my brothers, Carson, is still giving me the cold shoulder over it. A week ago, my parents left for a business trip and left me and my brothers home alone. Every day, our parents would check up on us before we'd go about our day. For most of that week, Carson was sick, so I'd keep track of what medicine he took and what time he took it, as well as call his school to report his absence. I'd also go to university a little later to make sure my other brother Felix went to school. On Thursday, Carson felt slightly better, so we decided that he'd go to school on Friday. I returned from university a little later, at 6:00 p.m., and almost immediately, my parents called me to go to the pharmacy near our place to buy some cough syrup in case Carson needed it, so I did. I felt very tired and sleepy afterwards since it was a long day, so I decided to take a nap. I expected to sleep for only 1-2 hours, but I guess I was very sleepy because I woke up at 1 in the morning. I stepped into the hallway to get myself a drink of water, but then I heard some noises downstairs. I walked to the living room to find Carson watching TV quiet. I probably wouldn't have cared if it weren't for the fact that it was a school night, so I confiscated the remote and told Carson to go to bed. He smiled and walked to his room in the basement. Then I went to check on Felix, only to find him watching videos on his phone, so I did the same to him. Then I remembered that it would be a garbage day the next morning, so I went outside to take the trash out, when I noticed the basement lights were on. I walked downstairs to find Carson on his phone. Exasperated, I took his phone and the other remotes in the basement, since the room had TVs as well, and told him that if I caught him doing that again, I'd call Mom. He obliged. Then I walked upstairs, only to hear Felix running around giggling. Having had enough of their actions, I yelled that I'm telling Mom and did just that. She was very mad and asked me to go to their rooms with video camera on so she could scold them. Carson was silently crying, while Felix pretended to sleep. Then she told me to clean the kitchen, and then study for a bit before going back to sleep, which I did. In the morning, Carson was very upset with me for calling mom on him. He didn't want to do anything I told him to because of what I did, including taking his daily medicine. He also refused to help me out with the house chores out of spite, despite the fact that it would be the day that our parents would return. In the end, even though he mostly got over it, he still is being upset with me, so I have to wonder if I went a little too far with this. Am I the a-hole? Your 13-year-old brother was being antagonistic, and the younger sibling was following his lead. Your parents should have outlined expectations clearly before leaving. It seems like the kids were testing your boundaries while your parents were away. You did the best you could for your age and handled the situation well. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.